Uzampo. My name is Tenzing Lamsang. I'm the editor of the Bud News newspaper. In my last two videos on the Gelephu Mindfulness City project, I talked about firstly what could happen to the private land and the compensation, and followed by the potential investors in the project as well as how the project could be funded. In this video, I would like to explore the larger strategic economic rationale of the Gelephu Mindfulness City project. Here, if you go back more than 20 years ago, even before the 2003 Operation All Clear, His Majesty the Fourth King, accompanied at times by His Royal Highness the then Crown Prince and now His Majesty the King, basically did a recce or survey of the southern border from the west to east and east to west, often on foot and through thick forests. Now, around 20 years later, His Majesty the King, almost following in His Majesty the Fourth King's footsteps, is doing a similar recce of the Sarmong Dzongkhag and border, accompanied this time by tukus and lamas, potential investors, senior officials and others. And this time the enemy is not Alpha Bodo, but this time the enemy is the twin blessings, historical twin blessings on Bhutan, which have now turned into twin curses. So, what are these twin blessings? These twin blessings historically, firstly, has been Bhutan's mountainous and hilly terrain, and this has helped develop our current culture, society, and it has also been an advantage in terms of being a big deterrent to foreign invaders, which has helped preserve Bhutan's sovereignty and independence for centuries. The other blessing was Bhutan's homogeneous and small population, which meant stability and avoiding the extreme poverty which we can see in the larger neighborhood. However, in the modern era, the mountainous terrain of Bhutan has meant that Bhutan is literally the world's most mountainous country. This prevents large-scale economic activities like mass commercial agriculture, industrialization, and makes any infrastructure very difficult and expensive. The small population in the modern era means that we have a small workforce, which means smaller ability to produce, and at the same time an even smaller market where we can sell these products. Don't get me wrong, I think these two blessings now turned curses is something we still enjoy, our way of life, how things don't change, and the clean mountain air, all of that. But economically, it is a big disadvantage, and there's a huge economic price to pay for our geography, our smallness, our location. So, unable to have a productive economy because of these factors, we are a consumption and import-driven economy. We are dependent on grants, on soft loans, on government expenditure, on some seasonal tourism, and then some hydro projects essentially. And if any of these go down, we are in deep economic trouble. Even if you look at our three biggest towns of Phinsuling, Thimphu, and Paro, they have reached their maximum economic productive capacity, and there isn't anything more that can be done there. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again and expect a different result. This is a famous international saying. And we have been doing the same with regard to our 5-year plans and economy. Every 5-year plan is essentially a copy and paste job of the previous 5-year plan, where we don't address the fundamental issues that I mentioned earlier, which are affecting Bhutan's economy, which are making our youth leave the country because they don't see a future prospect for themselves here. Our political parties, all of them, in every election, make similar pledges of more farm road and building something here, building something there, but don't address these fundamental issues. His Majesty the King is trying to take on these two curses on Bhutan head on by taking the largest available flat land in Bhutan, located close to the international border, and using our sovereign prerogatives by establishing a special administrative region where we can give special legal, financial, other incentives to foreign investors. Applying Bhutan's well-established brand Bhutan, which is GNH, sustainability, people wanting to come here, our green, our positive, essentially our positive image internationally, and using it to attract global investors, high quality global investors, and also skilled workers from around the world to deal with these two crises. Now, if you talk about the size of Gelephu, for those who have not been there, it's quite incredible. Gelephu can fit all the Thomdes in Bhutan, all the Enla Thomdes, and still have space for much more. If you are in Gelephu town, which is somewhere in the center of Sarbang, and you drive to the easternmost Gewog of Tarethang, it is around 1 hour 30 minutes drive. This can be shortened to around 40 minutes once the bridge over Maukhola is built. If you go from Gelephu town to the extreme western area, which is the Sengye Gewog, which is the start of the Phipsu Wildlife Sanctuary, it's around 1 hour drive. So you're talking of 2 hour 30 drive in mainly flat land or gentle slopes, which has a lot of potential. And this would be Bhutan's first proper international city in terms of area and location and potential. Gelephu could have developed much faster in the past, but it has had a challenging past. Up to the 80s, it was doing fairly well and there was a lot of scope, but then we had the problem in the 1990s problem, and development came to a standstill. And when Gelephu was just coming out of that, then we have the militancy issues with the Indian militants like Alpha Bodo, the 2003 operation, all clear, and some residual kind of issues of kidnapping or stealing of cattle. But in the last many years, Gelephu has had a very positive turnaround in terms of security, and even especially so after the pandemic, because the pandemic watch post set up along the border is very useful in terms of security also. So earlier there used to be an occasional theft of a cow or two from some Bhutanese villages along the border by miscreants from the other side, but now even that is curbed. So I think Gelephu will do well because of the has potential to do well, and because of the earlier factors I mentioned, like the SAR, brand Bhutan, and one more factor is also I visited the Gelephu water project, which is Bhutan's biggest water project, built under budget and on time by Bhutanese and of a very high quality. And this shows the potential of our Bhutanese youth and what skilling and right leadership can do for them. The GMC project is essentially recognizing reality that our economic heartland is not in the cities or towns in the north, which is consumption driven, import driven, doesn't produce much economically, but it is in our southern heartlands, in the plain lands or lands along the border, where we can build a global global city, export driven centers, and that is, I think, Bhutan's economic future. So essentially the Gelephu Mindfulness City is His Majesty the King, with the people behind him going into battle, an economic battle of our times, and the outcome will change Bhutan forever. So I leave you with these words and thoughts. Signing off. Thank you.